Welcome to the Focus Podcast with Taralee. This is the place where we talk about real life, real relationships, and how to grow through it all. If you're looking for simple mindset shifts, better communication, and deeper connections, you're in the right spot. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Focus Podcast. I am Taralee. Today we have an incredibly special guest, and I'm so excited he's here. This is Todd Sarner. Todd is a parenting coach and a psychotherapist with over 20 years experience helping families move from power struggles and emotional overwhelm to calm, connection, and cooperation. His work is grounded in attachment science and practical psychology. He is the director of Transformative Parenting, and he also worked closely with Dr. Gordon Neufeld, whose book, Hold On to Your Kids, has been deeply meaningful to me personally. Todd, I am so honored that you are here today. Thank you for joining me.
I'm super honored to be here. I love what you're doing and love the chance to have a conversation. And thanks for
Yeah.
the wonderful introduction. I love being a special guest.
You are a very special guest. This is so exciting and intimidating to me at the same time because your work is just, I just love your work. So,
Oh, thank
um,
you.
could you share a little bit about your personal journey and what led you to this work and why parenting through an attachment lens has become really powerful to focus on for you?
Okay. Did you say we had 4 hours?
17.
17
17. We can
hours.
take,
Okay, great.
yes,
Let me
yes.
cancel everything. Oh gosh. The personal journey part, I guess, goes back to being a depressed 13-year-old whose parents were splitting, and I was introduced to psychotherapy. Um, I guess a judge in the family court said, these kids need help. These parents are fighting a lot. So they need to go talk to somebody. And I went and talked to Dr. Diner. He is no longer with us, but I would go every week to talk to Marty, and I loved it. And I just said, that was so helpful to me as a person. I want to do that. I want to be that for other kids. I want to be that person who is like kind of a calm in the storm. And so I went to grad school and I studied everything, and I thought I was going to be a child counselor. And then a whole bunch of things happened in a row, the most significant of which was becoming a dad myself, and then quickly finding the work of Dr. Neufeld, who's back on my wall here, um,
Oh, yeah.
my wall of fame back here. And his book, Hold On to Your Kids, just really made a huge impression on me. And the bottom line of it was parents are meant to be the answer for their children. And I'm not saying that there's not a time and a place, like in my life, for a counselor for kids. There is a time and a place for that. But for me, with most of the parents I was seeing around me, I thought, hey, they're the answer, not me. I want to empower them. I want to work with them to be the answer for their kids and to have the confidence of what Dr. Neufeld called alpha parenting, which is not being a dictator, it's being a big mama bear or a papa bear. And like, I don't have everything worked out, but I'm your dad, I'm your mom, and I got this, you know? And I just
Yeah.
wanted to be that guy. And becoming a dad, it really helped out with that. And so I decided I wanted to be on the psychotherapy side. I was going to work directly with parents on any issues they had or couples on their marriage. And I only work with couples who are parents. And then on the other side, doing the parent coaching work, which is like an intensive 3 month process I do with people. You know, you're a parent coach. I do an intensive 3 month process of just really going deep into attachment, into environment, and into relationship friendly responses to behavior, and just kind of looking at things through a different lens. I think I only answered the first part of your question, but attachment science just really became the lens. And to me, attachment, when it comes to parenting or comes to marriage, which a lot of people don't know, it applies to both, is hey, there's a lot of factors in life, there's a lot of variables, but the number one determinant of how a kid behaves today the number one determinant of how they learn to get along well with others and have healthy relationships, and the number one determinant of how they grow into their greatest potential in life is how secure they're made to feel in their primary relationships growing up. That's what attachment is to me. Does that make sense? That a
Yes.
lot of it
Yeah,
is
I
really
love
deeply
that.
influenced by Gordon. And it applies to marriage too. People come to me as a couples counselor and say, we have this problem, this problem, this problem, and they're almost always the same.
Mm-hmm.
But from an attachment lens that I learned from Sue Johnson, Stan Tatkin, um, it's yeah, you're having all those symptoms, but the underlying problem is the bond between the two of you. It's no longer strong because of kids, because of life, because of vulnerability and being scared and childhood stuff. We
Yeah.
didn't take care of the bond. And so all the other. So that's just the big picture overview here at the beginning is in the parenting work is attachment is the number one thing. We also need to have consequences. We have to know how to do structure. We have to know how to do limits in the right way. But
Mm-hmm.
the first thing is first is does the child feel connected to you right now? Does the child feel like their deeper needs are important? And that determines everything. So
I
clearly we're
love
out
that.
of time. It was nice to meet you. And
I love that. I love that so much. I love it. Well, I know that like so many of the parents that I work with feel like they've tried everything, the
mm,
consequences, the charts, all of that. Um, and still they feel like they're stuck in power struggles, I think. Why do you think that these methods like often fall short for these well-meaning parents?
so many reasons, and I could go down a long list, but I just find so much advice is piecemeal.
Hmm.
I often use the phrase whack-a-mole parenting.
Yeah.
And I might have got it somewhere else, but I've been saying it forever. You know, like the game. It's like my
Hmm.
kid's not listening right now. Okay, do this. Okay, now my other kid is fighting with it. Okay, this. And oh, now that and it's not giving the big picture. And that's why I fell in love with Gordon's work,
Yeah.
Dr. Neufeld's work. I was lucky enough that I was so enthusiastic about the book when I found it. I started emailing his office. You have to come here and speak to the parents here, and I want to do this work. And he wrote me back. And we started a dialogue, and he's like, I'm going to start training people. Do you want to be in the first group? And I'm like, yes. Um, but it was so big for me because I had gone through graduate school. My son's mother and I met in graduate school. We both went to child development class. We both had worked in environments with kids. And I personally didn't feel like I had a roadmap for how to parent. And I had a good six-figure investment in education in many years, and I'd worked in group homes and I'd worked in foster care and I had done all these things and I became a dad. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Because even in grad school it was piecemeal, a little of this, a little of that. So what I think Neufeld provided and that I was really inspired by and I've worked with for these couple decades as my foundation is look, it's about creating an environment. It's about creating a culture in your home where
Hmm.
we pay attention to three different realms, and paying attention to one of them doesn't solve the problem.
Hmm.
So we look at attachment. Okay, even the best parents, the people who come to me are not like, how often should I scream at my child? They're usually like, oh, I'm trying really, really hard. I'm trying to be peaceful. I'm trying to do this right. But there's so many things about attachment that we don't understand because we're not taught it. Things about how to help a child feel connected when apart from you. All these things that if we're not paying attention to, they feel anxious. And when they feel anxious, they act out. And when they act out, we're taught to react to them, right? Where the
Yeah.
real thing is get to the bottom of it. Always collect
Mm.
before you direct, as Dr. Neufeld says. Get their eyes and their smile and their nod. Get the context of relationship before you do anything. Build a culture around them with predictability and structure and rhythm because that helps enforce the feeling of connection. But then when it comes to behavior issues, reframe how you're seeing them. They are not your child doing something to you on purpose, and parenting isn't doing this when your kid does that to make them stop. Parenting is about being proactive. It's about the root word of discipline being the same as disciple. It's being a leader who avoids most problems in the first place. So that's what I'd say is you weren't given the right roadmap. You're trying really hard, but you weren't given the right roadmap. Maybe you didn't learn it when you were growing up. Maybe you got bad examples of it. And maybe you're listening to this expert and this blog and this thing, but it's not the whole roadmap. It's just piecemeal. And so thinking of it as creating and building out a culture and having a different narrative about what parenting is the place to start. But does that answer your question?
Yes, I love that. I love that
Yeah.
so much. And I feel like when you talk about like roadmaps, sometimes, uh, even with different kids, sometimes you need a little bit of different way
No,
to
that's why it's
handle
so frustrating because parents will go,
things.
okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Here's the exact three things to do. Anyone, you have three yourself?
Yes, yes,
Anyone who has three children, it's common sense. You don't need to be a podcaster, parenting coach, psychologist. Like, you have three children. Can you parent them the same? Like,
no,
no, there's no possible way. So it's more that you have to know the fundamentals, the foundational principles. You have to understand what makes them tick, and then you have to apply those principles to your unique child or your unique children. It can't just
yeah,
be one cookie cutter thing, but that sells. It
hmm,
it sells if I tell you I have the answer and here's right, but
yep.
it just leads to parents feeling worse about themselves because they
It's
go, "Oh,
just,
that expert said it was this one thing and it worked for them and it doesn't and they said it.
yep.
But that's not how it works.
It isn't. I know what worked with, and I have two girls and one boy, and what worked with one kid would not work with another. And what, you definitely have to figure it out too with each of them. I know something that like I talk a lot about on my show is like the paradox of control. Like
Hmm.
sometimes we try to do everything right and often we feel like we're losing control anyway. But what do you think that true leadership looks like in parenting, especially like if we're triggered or overwhelmed
I
with
love that
every
you talk about that because I think I just put out an article about that on LinkedIn or something a couple weeks ago about this control idea, and I didn't steal it from you. Um, um, leadership to me, um, I'll talk about two things here: the leadership idea and then the doing things perfectly
Mhm.
myth. Is Leadership to me is that word alpha and getting that from Dr. Neufeld that it's like I said, it's not about being a dictator. It's not about do as I say. It's more about being a good leader, being a papa bear, a mama bear, a I got you. My mantra as a dad for a long time was like, no matter what, it was like, if my child was being difficult or resisting, like being connected or something, my attitude inside was a smile and I'm gonna get you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get you. And that
Yeah.
that kept me in my head like kind of right and not taking things personally. But alpha to me is I'm here to take care of you. And one of the most powerful things that I read in Dr. Neufeld's book when it first came out was, I think it was in the book. I don't think it was a talk or something, but he said, parenting is about who you are to your child, not what you do. You
Hmm.
get that distinction? It's
Yes.
I know who I'm supposed to be, and if I know who
Mhm.
I'm supposed to be, the what to do's kind of follow from that. But our kids don't need to be in charge. And again, a lot of the peaceful, gentle parents that I work with, and I strove to be one myself, kind of think it's one or the other, right? That you
Hmm.
have to be mean or you have to be peaceful and permissive. And it's more like I worked with this kid in a group home once. Care about this. I want to say kid a lot. He's like 30 something now, and we still communicate with each other. But he had this thing where he would just boss the line staff around.
Mm.
Big African American kid, 16 years old. And whenever he was feeling anxious, he would boss people and he got in trouble for it. He got in trouble at the school that the kids went to and stuff. And he used to ask me to come to sit next to his bed when he was going to sleep at night because he had a hard time going to sleep. And if there was extra staff, I could do it. And I would talk to him. And one day I said, I don't want to use his name, Billy. Um, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep bossing people around? It's not going well for you. And he goes, Todd, sometimes it feels like I'm in the back of a car and it's going down the street really fast and no one's driving. And I just feel like I have to drive. And that impacted me so much. Do you get like the sentiment
Yes.
there? I'm not sure if I'm telling the
That's,
story well.
no, I do.
And that's what kids feel a lot, you know?
Hmm.
Not in a such a pronounced way as this young man who had a horrible, horrible background of abuse and being removed from his home. But kids a lot of times just need us to be leaders so they can be kids, so they can
Hmm.
relax, so they can play. And when they're feeling anxious, they tend to move to be in charge. And that's
Hmm.
not usually confidence, as Neufeld says. It's more like, I feel anxious, so I'm going to be in charge, you know?
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
this whole thing about being perfect, kids don't need us to be perfect. You
Mm-mm.
say it, I say it. It's cliche at this point, everybody said it, but it wouldn't be good for our children if we were perfect. That's not how life works. If we were perfect and then they went out and tried to have friends or tried to have a
Hmm.
love relationship or tried to have a job and those people are not perfect, they would not know how to deal with it. I think our job
Yeah.
is know what your role is, try to do your best. When you notice you're messing up a little bit in your own mind, like, okay, correct for it. I just said
Hmm.
to a client this morning, she has a really bad self-critic that says you're screwing up. You should like I'll tell her something to do to help her and then she goes, "Oh, I did it wrong. I did it wrong. I did it wrong that time and I said, "Stop.
That shame.
A little bit of that voice is okay. A little bit
Hmm.
going, hey, you want to be better. You want to do that better. Your kid needs something different. Cool. Hear that voice and then use that as fuel that inspires you to
Hmm.
keep going and to keep trying and to keep trying to learn and trying to be better. But if you constantly beat yourself up with that, it's not good for you and it's not good for your child because it
Hmm.
takes away from your presence with your child. And like you say, one of
Yep.
my beliefs I've had for a long time, what you focus on expands. I think your dad gave that
Yes.
to you.
Yeah. Hmm.
Is I always believe that there are so many things going on that our brain can't even compute them all. And
Hmm.
so when we focus on a particular thing, that's all we see. And so if you're focused on, I have to be perfect, and that's mostly the moms I work with, to be honest
Yes.
with you. I've worked with a couple thousand people, and the dads definitely have their stuff, and the dads definitely engage with the work. They're usually pulled in by the mom. But
Yep.
the moms are usually the ones, and I think they haven't been helped out by culture. They haven't been helped out by other moms sometimes saying you're not
Hmm.
doing it good enough. And it's just that's not the model. The model is let's put attachment first, let's be present, and let's provide a good environment. And then let's try to find ways to respond to their behavior in a way that's not punitive. It's like going, oh, this is telling me something they don't know how to do well yet. Let me figure out how to guide them to figure out how to do it. And if I
Yeah.
mess up, I repair, I say I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I don't put it on them, and then we move on. And now
Yeah.
I've helped that child have something that's as valuable as anything else that they've
Hmm.
internalized. Oh, things can go wrong, but we can make them better. And
Hmm.
I'm here to tell you, as a psychotherapist for a long time, that really affects people into their
Hmm.
adulthood when they don't have that inside. Did that sentence make sense?
Yes. Oh,
That when we go
totally.
into adulthood, I don't think I did. Okay, hopefully I
Yeah.
gained it. But that ability to be able to be in tension, you know,
Hmm.
I always say to my
Yep.
couples, conflict's bad. So if you're trying to avoid conflict, I understand that. But there's
Hmm.
something that's not conflict, that's more tension. It's more
Mm-hmm.
like, ooh, this is uncomfortable. This is not great. And if we can learn to get comfortable with that tension, it's where
Mm-hmm.
growth comes from. But
Yes.
if we're not comfortable with it, it does lead to conflict, you know?
Yep. I
So
love that. Yes. I love that.
long
That's so
answers
great.
all day, Taralee.
No, I love
But as
it.
you
I
can
love it so
tell, I'm
much.
very enthusiastic about this stuff. So,
Oh, I am too, and I
as
love
you
to
are,
just
yes.
I love to just soak it all in too, because everything you're saying, it reminds me of this and it reminds me of that. And I just,
That's
oh,
what
I love
Neufeld
it.
was for me when I first found him. And then working with Sue Johnson, one of the best couples counselors in the world, who kind of invented the attachment-based couples counseling. I just wanted to sit at her feet and just listen to her, and
Yeah,
Stan Tatkin, who also is in that world of attachment-based couples counseling. I just love talking about it. And that's why I'm glad we had a chance
I know,
to
me
have this
too.
conversation.
My dad was a marriage and family therapist, and I
Oh,
remember as a teenager, somebody one time said to me, "Do you just sit at his feet and bask in his wisdom?" And I laughed out loud. I laughed out loud because I thought, "What? No, I mean, I've always been interested in human behavior and stuff, but he was my dad. Like I just didn't see that. And he passed away in 2016, and I would kill to sit at his feet and bask in his wisdom at this point, and talk about this kind
I
of stuff with him a lot
I
and
You know,
more. And
I
it's
I know
crazy.
what you mean. And my father passed a couple years ago too, and that's something you really feel.
Hmm.
But my son's. I'm always self-conscious as a marriage counselor to say this, but my son's mother and I, our relationship didn't make it. It's been a long time, but we used to joke, and I still joke sometimes that a poor kid was born to two MFTs. Um, oh my gosh, you're gonna have to
Yep.
okay, dinner will be 3 hours, and let's talk about our feelings. And but
Right.
hopefully, that
Yep.
didn't happen.
I love it. No, I mean, I think that's where, like you said, what you focus on expands. That's what I've started the podcast about. And then, I have my coaching with Peaceful Heart Journey. I
Mm.
just love, when you talk about the focusing, and it came from my dad. That came from my teachings and my upbringing, and just as I'm getting older and the things that I'm studying and learning, it just is, I think, the parents that come to me, and I'm sure to you, are the ones that think that they're doing a terrible job, but the ones that think that they're doing a terrible job usually aren't, and they're
Yeah,
wanting to change.
there.
And kind of how you talked about parents that, you know, are needing these, like, what is one small shift that a parent can make today, if a parent's listening to this today, to maybe move towards a more connected home and relationship with their kids.
It's the theme of today. Is I could come up pretty quickly with 20. I think
Yeah.
the one the one that I always focus on first is one that I mentioned before, and the original way I understood it, or the original term that Neufeld taught was collect before you direct.
Hmm.
And it was the idea that I don't think we could talk about too much, that we can't take relationship for granted. We can't assume connection, especially
Hmm.
with a young child. There's all sorts of things we could talk about there's no prefrontal cortex in a child really that functions before they're 5, 6, 7 years old. Jean Piaget talked about the 5 to 7 shift. Rudolf
Yeah.
Steiner, Waldorf education. My son went Waldorf all the way through. Talked about something changes around the time they're 7, and like before then, we shouldn't try to teach them too much. We should, right? Well, what we know is before 7 years old, the child doesn't have a functioning prefrontal cortex. And one of the
Hmm.
things that means is if they're very, very focused on a toy or something there's a little rabbit thing that my partner gave me. Um, that if they're really focused on it, their brain literally can't hear you.
Hmm.
If you could walk up, and I've said this like hundreds of talks that I've given over time before COVID. You go up behind your 4 or 5 year old and you're like, Billy, 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 we got to go. Billy. And Billy just keeps playing, and these thoughts start going in your head. They're not listening to me. It's disrespectful. Why aren't you cooperating? Right? And all these things start going in your head, maybe because your parents said it or whatever. And the truth is, your child literally doesn't have the part of their brain right now that can
Mm-hmm.
focus on something and also hear you. They
Mm-hmm.
don't. So finally, you get loud enough and they go, "What?" And you go, "Didn't you hear me?" And they say, "No." And they're not lying.
Yeah.
They don't have a mixer in their brain. So obviously, it's not just young children. I just wanted to make that point. It is our teenagers who
Yeah.
have so much going on in their heads and they're struggling to try to individuate while also needing attachment more than ever. And they've got this, as Daniel Siegel calls it, like brainstorm going on. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that person's going to be harder to connect with. What about our spouse? You cannot come home and just tell your spouse what to do or like launch into something. They will resist you. It's not just children. So I think the one shift, and I've actually been working on a podcast myself, and it's called The Parenting Shift, but I haven't released it yet. You're the first to hear about it.
Okay.
But just because you
We'll
use
link
that
it.
language, well, I don't, it's not released yet. I have the first 4 episodes being edited, but
Awesome.
I think
Oh, I can't wait.
it sound like I'm doing an advertisement. That's not my goal. I'm not, but is don't take relationship for granted. Everywhere around the world, you don't just walk in and go, here's the thing, and you should do it, whatever, right? Everywhere in the world, I kiss you on the cheek 3 times, and then we talk about small talk, and then we might get into something, right?
Yeah.
And that you don't even walk into a business meeting in America and just go, this. People come in, hey, Roger, how's your golf game? And hey, Mary, how have you been doing? And how's that project going, right? You're
Yeah.
supposed to get into relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
if I had one thing to say, I'd say don't take relationship for granted. Your kid loves you. Attachment means they are wired to be connected to you, and that is an unbreakable bond for the most part. Okay? Even when they
Mm-hmm.
act like something else, they are wired to you. It's a survival thing, it's a deep emotional thing. But that doesn't mean that they feel connected to you right now. So you, as an alpha parent, always take initiative to get that green light on. And that comes from an old Neufeld story that as I'm talking to you right now, I see a little green light in my MacBook that tells me that the camera's working, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or on the side of my laptop, it has a little green light that says it's plugged in. And I have a
Mm-hmm.
long story I could tell you another day about how not having that caused me an anxiety attack once when it my computer went off during a presentation. But
Oh no.
it's like we have to imagine our child has like a little green light in their forehead that our
Mm-hmm.
job is to get it on, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it takes a few seconds and sometimes it takes a few minutes. And when they're teenagers, sometimes we really have to leave some space and let them allow them to come to us, but make it doable and
Yeah.
attractive.
Yeah.
But even with your spouse, don't take relationship for granted. Always greet first. Always greet warmly. Get the eyes and the smile and the nod, like Neufeld says. Collect, and you don't only do it. This is a rookie mistake that a lot of us made when we learned this, and a lot of my parents have made. Don't only collect your child when you want them to do something
Oh,
because they
yes.
figure that out quickly. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just like
Yep.
you would. Somebody at work like never says hi to you except for when they want something.
Something.
Don't do
Yep.
that. It should be the culture of your home that we always greet each other when, especially when we come back into contact. I've been at work, you've been at school, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Take a few moments, get that sense that your child is connected with you, that you're in relationship, and then go from there, especially if you have something like, oh, and by the way, this.
Yes. Yep. That I love that. I've said on this many times, connection before correction.
Yeah.
And that is
I think Kim
definitely
John Payne, do you know Kim John Payne, Simplicity Parenting?
That's probably where I got it from, right? Is it does
Kim is a dear friend of mine.
Oh,
He used to
really?
come and speak at my son's school
Oh, wow.
long time ago because he's really well known everywhere, but he's really well known in the Waldorf community. And he would come to my son's school, Summerfield Waldorf School and Farm. And people would tell him, "You got to meet Todd. He does some stuff that you'd like." And I already knew who he was, and so somehow somebody introduced us, and we became fast friends. And I think he uses that terminology.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love
So
it.
we
That's
we
awesome.
we have very long conversations, he and I, about this stuff. We did a YouTube video that I think was the most popular one on our YouTube channel, which was based on one of my favorite things he ever said, which was, "I've never met a disobedient child. I've only met a disoriented one." And I
Mm.
love that, you
Dude, I
know?
seriously, I just got the chills. I love
So
that.
I wanted to throw in a
Love
little
that.
bonus shift for people because Kim came up that if you see your kid is doing something wrong on purpose, you kind of automatically take a antagonistic stance towards them.
Mhm.
But if you get, oh gosh, they're disoriented, they don't know how to do something, they don't know how to handle their feelings, well, then your job is what Kim calls a guide becomes really, really obvious. Your job is to, oh, help them, help get them out of this. And sometimes we have to do consequences, but those aren't punishment. It's cause and effect. You didn't eat dinner, you don't get dessert. You're yelling in the car, I'm going to pull it over, but I'm not going to yell at you. And sometimes it's setting limits with a child, saying no, because they're just full of foul frustration. And our job is to be kind, but be firm and say no, but be kind, but be firm and say no. It's not just one thing, but it starts
Mhm.
with kind of how you see your child, you know? And that's why I
Yeah,
love, love, love that quote by Kim. You
that
can
is
link to
so
that
great.
video, Kim's
Okay.
Kim's
Okay.
video that we did. He's just such a amazing human being. Been
Okay.
lucky
I'll
enough to
link
know
that in the
him for
show
a while.
notes.
Excellent.
Okay, for sure. I love that so much. I just, and a lot of what you're talking about, like, goes along with like my focus framework about, you were talking about, what are the facts? I always say facts first. That's the F in focus. And,
Yeah.
sometimes we think that our thought is the fact, and it's not necessarily, this kid is acting out on purpose. It's no, this, what is actually happening, what we consider as
And
acting out
that's
is
what I
just,
love when I heard about your framework is in psychology and in parent coaching, and as a parent coach, one of the most powerful things we can create is what they call in philosophy and psychology a pause point.
Mhm.
An ability to not automatically act and react. And so, a lot of what I do and a lot of what you do, and your focus framework speaks to it directly, is let's create a pause point where somebody has the ability to become what they call, again, in psychology and in some spiritual meditative practices, the aware observer. That I'm not
Mhm.
just jumping into the rapids with my kid and going down the river. I'm actually seeing what's happening. And if
Yeah.
you have that pause point, that is
Mhm.
so powerful. I had a I had a professor in grad school, Philip Brooks, brilliant guy, one of my favorite classes in getting my master's in psychology. It was called psychosynthesis. Great class. But he said this thing that got to me. He said, we were talking about free will. And he
Mhm.
said, if I'm doing something, Philip said this, he said, if I'm doing something automatic because my parents programmed me to or society programmed me to, he's all, that pisses me off. I want to make my own choices. I want to act out of my free will, out of what I want, what my values are. And that got me, And that's what I think the focus framework does. That's what I strive to do by creating this incubator for parents for 90 days where we just kind of go through all this stuff is I want you to have that ability. Oh, this is happening. I can do this or that. That wouldn't help.
Mhm.
That never works. This might work. Let me do
Yeah.
that thing. And
Yeah.
and what might not only empower my child, what might preserve our relationship and what might actually be effective. Because I could be all feel good all day and I believe all this stuff. Okay. I'm
Mhm.
all about being kind and loving and a papa bear, mama bear to a child. But at the end of the day, I'm also about what's practical. And
Mhm.
the thing is none of that other stuff works anyway. None of the punishment works. None of the
No.
taking things away from a child works. It doesn't. It works short term sometimes with some kids
Yep.
because you're taking away what they care about and that shocks them. But after a
Mhm.
while, they just start going, I don't care. Go ahead. Take it away. Take away
Yeah.
everything. I don't care. And it's
Mhm.
because you've created what they call defensive detachment. And that's a much harder place to parent a child from, is when they're in that place, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes maybe our parents, the parents that I work with, their teenagers have kind of gotten to that point where they're like, they don't care about anything. They can't, they've taken their phone so many times, or they've taken, there's nothing left that I can take away from them or whatever. And it's, they're at that, point of now what?
And some of
Do you
that is
have
just,
any advice?
well, gosh, that's, and again, probably invite me back. We'll talk about that.
Yes, we'll
But
go into that next time.
Well, I mean, first we have to understand the problem because when we understand the problem, that's critical in creating the solution. And it's kind of like if you know who you're supposed to be to your child, you know what to do thing that I said before. If you know what
Yeah.
the problem is, then you're aware of it and maybe you don't do it. And then you do the opposite, right? So I think a
Hmm.
lot of the teenager stuff, let's just be honest, is because they're at a really hard time in their development and they have those two forces I mentioned earlier saying you have to individuate, you have to individuate, you have to individuate, you have to individuate on one side.
Hmm.
And then on the other side, oh my God, I'm scared, I'm disoriented, I don't know what to do, and they need attachment. And those two things are pulling at them all the time. And
Hmm.
then they have a culture that I try not to sound like that guy who gets up on his soapbox and culture, but a
Hmm.
culture that kind of encourages defensive detachment,
Hmm.
encourages your parents suck and everything sucks and and
Yep.
and in all the social media stuff, it creates this culture of deadening. So my number one proactive bit of advice is do not turn your children over to culture. And that
Hmm.
sounds obvious, but we talked a little bit before we were recording. I find in the community where I work, primarily, I work with people all over the world, but I started in Marin County, which is just north of San Francisco. I'm a little bit north of that now. Very affluent community. The author Madeline Levine wrote books like The Price of Privilege about her work that she did there. I find that a lot of parents are like, okay, they're 13, they're 14, they're talking back. I guess it's time to turn them over and just let them do what they want. And again, my message is not become an oppressive dictator thing,
Hmm.
but you don't turn them over because they are not ready. Yes, you need to give them a little bit more space. Yes, you need to make sure they're aware of their self agency, their ability to make some choices, to be responsible for things. But you're still meant to be in the alpha position with them
Hmm.
because adolescence has never been longer. You have some kids right there in the range.
Hmm.
Adolescence didn't exist a long time ago.
Hmm.
If 13 years old was like, okay, here's your wife, here's your husband, go take
Yes.
over the farm, right? That wasn't that long
Yep.
ago. And
You're an
that's
adult.
that's still at play in our kids. Genetically, they start feeling that pull. Oh, I better be my own person now because I need to be out on my own soon. They're not. Most of our kids are still dependent on us in some way until their mid 20s, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I would say to actually answer your question, one, do not turn them over to social media and peers. Retain your position as the most important person, people in their life. And that means giving them some more space and things, but it means don't give up your role because if you turn them over to the peer culture and things, it really makes it 24/7 defensive
Mm.
detachment. Until maybe 11 o'clock at night when you're trying to go to sleep and they walk in and go, Mom, can I talk to you about something? And then you're like,
Yes.
but I'm exhausted. And oh, okay. Can we talk about it tomorrow? Yeah, okay. And then do they bring it up tomorrow? No.
No.
You bring it
No.
up tomorrow and they're like, nothing. Because now they're defensively detached again,
Mm-hmm.
getting ready to go back into school and all these things, right? It's
Yep.
like right there before bed, the window opens. So I would say, don't turn them over to culture, even though you're getting the message to, and don't
Mm.
use attachment first ways of dealing with behavior and things. Don't take things away. Don't take away your attention. Don't take away their favorite things. Don't take away the activities that are necessities to them. Because all of
Mm-hmm.
us in our worst moments, our kid won't listen or whatever, and we go, I'm taking away your favorite thing. It has nothing to do with what they did.
Yep.
But I just intuitively know that's their favorite thing, so it'll probably get their attention.
Mm-hmm.
But it's again, the more I do things like that, the more it teaches them not to care.
Yep.
And so, thirdly, I would just say, just keep working on the relationship. Collect before you direct. Ask them their opinions. All things like this to keep them warmed up. I hope
Mm-hmm.
that's a little bit of a
Yes.
answer to your question. I used to do a
Yes.
teenager's course a long,
I
long time ago,
I
but I
love
haven't done
it.
it in a while.
I love it. There's so many different things that I was like, oh yeah, I want to talk to you about this. I want to talk to you about this. One thing that you brought up about like a teenager's emotions, there was something that I read recently or saw recently that like emotions in a teen are either to attract or repel.
Mm,
And so, like, attract their drama, think of a 14-year-old girl. She's going to attract attention and whatever with her emotions and through the drama, or repel, like, the dirty look, or, just get away from
yeah,
me, their energy or whatever. And so it depends on what they want at the time. And
yeah,
our job as a parent is not to react to that.
right.
We need to, like you were talking about, go into it with intention and with, I think that's part of emotional intelligence. I've studied a lot
Yeah.
about emotional intelligence that I didn't know, and I didn't realize how emotionally unintelligent I had been as the parent at times, like, oh yeah.
We all
And so,
have things to learn, right? I mean,
yes,
I just
that's what I want to teach.
sometimes I just feel like people go, "What is life about?" And what are we? I don't know. That's above my pay grade. I suspect a big part of our human experience, from a psychological and maybe a spiritual, point of view, is figuring out all the baggage we've taken on that's not really us, that's not really ours, that's generational or from our parents, and just let go of that and become more of ourselves. And then to discover the things that we don't know how to do yet, that we're not
Yep.
good at yet, and figure out how to get better at them if they matter, right? I
Yep.
remember somebody once said, we're all really good at a few things. We all really suck at a few things, and we're all just okay at most things. Well, if it comes to something that really matters to you and
Mm-hmm.
you weren't taught it, you
Hmm.
didn't learn it, your parents didn't model it for you, that's not your fault. So
Yeah.
learn it, become passionate about it, have fun with it, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that matters more than anything else. And there's so many things in life. I'm horrible at math. I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't want to get better at math. It doesn't matter to me. I've got computer devices and I don't really need to know math. But there's some things that I really want to learn more about. And that's the way to look at it is
Mhm.
if you have a deficit in any area, just grow, just learn, you
Yeah.
know?
That's what I tell my kids all the time. Like, my goal is for you to be, I'm hopefully a better parent than my parents were, and I thought my parents were great, but my goal is for you to be a better parent to your kids than I was to you. Learn, take some things, there's things that we take from our parents that we want and like, and things that, and our kids we're gonna screw them up somehow. That's our job too, right? We're gonna,
We
but
we
we're,
all have our journey, right? We all have things like I wouldn't change so many of the hardest things in my life. I can say because it's me. I wouldn't say it about your journey. I wouldn't say it about anybody else's journey. But since it's me, I can say all the hardest things in my life, I can see a reason for them, or even if they were wrong, I can go, at least I learned this because of that. At least I became passionate about doing this work because of these things, right? I
Yeah.
can't think of a better thing to do than I
Mm.
do than you do. You know, I can't think of a better thing to do. There was a quote, and I swear I didn't know it before I named my company Transformative Parenting. It was just one of those universe things, but Marianne Williamson said, "There's no single effort more radical in its potential for saving the world than a transformation of the way we raise our children." And
Wow.
I can't think of a better thing to do. And maybe I'm not doing it. Maybe I'm an electrical engineer. I know lots of electrical engineers, nothing against you, including my mother-in-law, um, but not electrical. She's not. I'm going to get in trouble for that. Edit that out. Just kidding. Um, but
It's fine.
uh, but I might have done something I wasn't as passionate about if it wasn't for my own journey, and I know you could say the same, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So I know that you've worked with thousands of families. What gives you hope about this generation of parents and kids?
Oh, um, it sounds so um, like I don't know, pre-prepared, but my clients, I I just have the most, and I have friends and people around me that I see in the community, the parents that my kid went to school with from first to 12th grade and kindergarten, but he went to kindergarten at a different school. We moved, and I still have relationships with some of those parents, but just the parents that I saw that we raised our kids together in my at
Mhm.
my son's school just leave me in awe and inspire me. And it was like this intentional community of people who came together around some ideals about the, and not all of them would say attachment, this or that, or any particular thing. They just had this sense that we should protect kids' childhoods and we should protect their sense of wonder and we should really not just prepare them for tests, but mostly the parents who come to me every day and who
Mhm.
say the exact same thing almost every time. I'm trying to be the best parent I can be, but my kids won't listen to me sometimes. And I get frustrated and I raise my voice and I yell and then I feel bad. And then
Mhm.
I tell my husband they need more connection and he tells me they need more discipline and we're fighting about it. But just watching them go through the journey of being humble and having like a beginner's mind and recognizing I want to be more than this for my kids. I want to be what
Mhm.
you just talked about, Taralee. I want to be the one that breaks the chain. I want to be the
Mhm.
one who helps my child not be free completely of any baggage, because that's just part of life. But
Mhm.
I'm not going to give them a whole bunch of unnecessary stuff because
Yeah.
I'm going to try to do my best. That's honestly because looking out in the news and looking out at some of the trends out there, social media. I read the book, The Anxious Generation, twice because I was just going back over some of his stuff. And some, I don't see a lot of inspiration when I turn on the computer or the news. But boy,
Mhm.
I'm constantly inspired by parents I work with that are trying to just find that right balance of
Mhm.
I want to provide for your attachment needs. I want you to feel seen and heard and understood and known as a human being. But I also know you need to learn cause and effect. You also
Mhm.
need help processing your feelings. And the best thing I can do with those things is I can learn how to teach you consequences in a loving way. I can set limits with you when you're feeling all yucky inside in a way that helps you feel your feelings and process them. That parenting is not about just one end or the other. It's about
Mhm.
trying to create a balanced approach. And that's what gives me inspiration is, as you said, it's been over 2,000 parents that I've worked with individually, and that doesn't count the webinars and now the podcasts, um, and the courses and all these things. I've just learned from so many people and been inspired by so many parents that, despite feeling like they're screwing it up sometimes, just keep showing up.
Yeah,
And there's
I love
nothing
that.
in the world more inspiring than that, for me.
I love that. I love that. I feel the same thing. Like when you see the news and you see those things, you think, oh no, what is this world coming to? But when you actually work with these people and you see them and you're like, okay, I think that with teenagers, I love working with the teenagers that I worked with and stuff too. It makes me realize that we're okay. We're going to be okay because these kids have got it. They really do. They think sometimes teens get a bad rap
I've
but
seen that a lot too. I've seen that a lot. I've seen kids respond to horrific things like shootings
Mhm,
at their school or something,
mhm.
and then just like not just, scream and yell about this, which they have a right to, but
Mhm.
actually go, we are going to change this thing. And that
Yeah,
always just brings tears to my eyes and really deeply inspires me. And I
yeah,
go, okay, we're okay. We're okay.
we're okay.
you know?
Yep. I see that. I see that with just, the young adults too, and just we're in good hands. We'll be okay. Well, I am just so grateful that you came today and shared all your
Thank you
wisdom. And
for having me.
where can people find you? I will link some stuff that in the show notes, but
Oh
what
gosh,
do you
there's
want
just
to
a
leave them with?
million things these days, right? Main
Got a
thing is
podcast?
transformativeparenting.com.
Okay.
www.transformativeparenting.com. We have a masterclass on there. That's like 20 minutes, which is a great overview of what we do. I'm really proud of the YouTube channel because I started it when I was living in Japan for 6 months a couple years ago, and I want to put out some good information that doesn't cost anything, and that talks about some of the most important things. And we're on all the socials, usually as T parenting, because transformative parenting, didn't think it through at the beginning. It's long. So usually T parenting on
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, www.transformativeparenting.com is the main one. Love to hear from people about what they're going through, and definitely link up with some of the resources.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Todd Sarner. I
Thank you for
appreciate
having me. And
your
like I
time.
told you privately, thank you so much for what you do. It's just so important to have non-judgmental, honest, vulnerable voices out there, to talk about parenting. There's not enough of it. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for hanging out with me today on the Focus Podcast. If something stood out or helped you in some way, feel free to share it or leave a quick review. It means a lot. Keep showing up, keep growing, and I'll catch you in the next episode.